So therefore, if employees are disciplined, output also, you know, very much acceptable level you can reach. Okay.
So may I
Last
add
question.
something?
Yeah.
Sir,
Chandrasen.
sir, with regard to the Asita's answer, we can
Yeah.
actually, it is important to maintain the order and productivity, and consistent should be we can keep if the discipline employees are there, and professionalism is important,
Yeah.
and enhancing the morale of the employee and company
Absolutely.
image is very
Yeah.
important, and legal compliance it's very important, and encouraging positive work culture and accountability. We can keep the accountability if disciplined employees are there, and same time the performance will be increased if employee discipline is there. So these aspects I would like to add.
Yeah. Those correct. Now you tell me what type of actions your company has taken in this against indisciplined employees.
Sir,
Whatever you explained is correct. Productivity, several factors must increase. Now I'm just asking, you gave several factors, final accountability. I'm asking you if any employee behaving in disciplined manner, what your employer had taken against that employee.
sir, I am also from the Sri Lanka Army, so we have army
Yeah, army is
regulations.
different.
Mm.
Army is different.
So there are code of conducts, some
Yeah,
regulation
now
has
court
been,
martial is there.
yeah, it
Army,
is
Navy,
there.
Air Force. If they are indisciplined, action is very tough. I agree. What about the private sector? Can someone from the private sector?
So,
Yeah.
yes, so in the private sector, we normally,
Okay, now let me think. You have your code of conduct or code of ethics. Every employee adhere to that. But one or two employees are not behaving in such standard. So you are in the HRM department. What actions you had taken? He may be a good employee. You don't want to lose him, but
yes,
his behavior is zero. Then what action you had taken? Practical. What
yes.
your employer had taken against the employee, private sector, not Army, Navy, Air Force.
Okay, so our first approach may be, sir, the firstly, we are just verbally counseling him or her,
Okay, so
and
starting with counseling, therapy. Okay.
the verbal
How
warning.
you
And
identify that employee is indisciplined? You can't
just
tell him.
normally, if it is kind of a like normal attendance policy or something like that, the HR could reveal that. Or else, if it's
His
relating to his
attendance is
direct.
good. His attendance is good, but time to time
Yes,
he may
in that
disturb.
case, so HOD will initiate that to the HR department, saying that
What the HR department, right? So you are basically communicating HR department. If this employee behave like this, productivity, whatever they said earlier can be diminishing. So first you go for counseling. Is that successful?
no. Yeah, in some
Counseling.
instance it will be if it is
Okay.
kind of a like employee who is having a good history, then we can just enhance that. We can just let him know that his past history is good, and then we have identified this kind of a thing, and we can just do it together with the HOD as well. If it fails, then we can go for a verbal warning, and if it
Right.
again fails,
Okay.
then we can go
That's
for
enough.
written
So
warning.
step by step, we are discussing that today. Step by step, you go forward. until the termination. Anyone from Sri Lanka Navy here? Anyone from Sri Lanka Navy?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you are from Sri Lanka Navy.
Yes, sir.
Now I got a case. That case, Navy officer had been given visa to go to Canada to follow a university course. So this officer, wife and 2 children, they had gone to the Sri Lanka airport, Katunai. Wife and children were allowed to go, no problem. Immigration had arrested that army officer. And he was not allowed to. My question is not that. Is there a ban Sri Lanka Navy? You cannot resign from the service. But
Actually, sir, we don't have that type of ban. So we have to put a submission and get approval from the commander of the Navy to resign from the Navy, sir.
හරි. Admission එක නැතුව ගියොත් indiscipline එතකොට.
Yes, sir. Navy has banned to migrate, so we have to get approval prior leave the country, sir.
This is not a migration. This is where he has been selected.
No, sir. He didn't get approval from the Navy, sir. That's why he was arrested.
Okay. So the immigration, they don't know whether approval given or not. මොනවාරි තියෙනවද ඒකට?
So there's a system. Once they have enter identity card number.
Right.
So it indicates we are from Navy, and without the approval, we can't leave the country, sir.
Yeah. No. Wife and children, they had gone.
No. Yes, sir. They have gone, but officer was arrested, sir.
That's right. That's the case. See, now, this is a case where I got from Canada. Now, the issue, Army, Navy, Air Force, very strict because of the country situation and all. But even I can't go abroad without the president's approval. අපි යන්න ඉස්සලා දාලා ගන්නවනේ. Navy එකේ ගන්න නැත්තේ.
Sir, he didn't got the approval.
Huh?
The officer didn't get the approval.
No, I went recently abroad. But before going, I have to get the minister's approval as well as the Prime Minister, President. They have to get an approval.
So that officer didn't get the approval, sir.
That is the discipline. Again, approval එක දෙන්නේ නැත්te යන්නරට.
No, he didn't request also.
Right. So look here, it's very, very important. Even to leave the country, you must get the approval. Because that is the code of conduct. When you join forces, it is clearly given. Because no one can do that. So different organization patterns are different. Different organizations are different. So at least when you joined, now there is a war declared in the world now. I don't know where this gone, Israel and Palestine, heavy attacks. So therefore the security must be maintained very high. Okay, anyway, this is not related to this question. I just want to know whether leaving country without the approval of the top is a indiscipline and a violation of a code of conduct. So they can take action. Okay, right. I just want to know that. Because the thing I heard from them is where Navy officers cannot resign from their post. That's the only thing I want to clarify. That's why I asked from you. Is there a rule like that? You cannot resign.
No, sir, can resign. But problem is he didn't put a submission and he didn't get approval.
Right. ඔය මට දුන්න නිවුස් එක ඊට වඩා වෙනස්. මට කිව්වේ මහින් එන්න බෑ.
නෑ සර් අප්‍රූවල් එක ගත්තේ නෑ සර් ඒකයි යන්න.
ඒකට. ඔයා දන්නවා කේස් එක.
ඔව් සර්.
You
One of
know
the
the case.
he's
But,
one of my
okay, thank you.
batchmates.
Okay. Right. Because I got this from Canada, continuously communicating with. Okay, no problem. Right, thank you. Okay, so therefore, it is very, very important. You know, we have to behave in such a manner. Now, if I am in an organization, I have to follow the code of conduct. Otherwise, they will have a disciplinary inquiry and terminate me. It's other thing. But if you are violating the law, that is a different. But anyway, you have to follow the natural justice. In any case, what is natural justice? Listen to both parties. First, listen to both parties and see how well you can do that. Right. Thank you very much. Now I'll share the slides. Have we done this half or not yet? අපි මේක පටන් ගත්තද ටිකක් දුර ගියාද නැත්නම් පටන් ගත්තෙම නැද්ද? Hello.
Not yet done, sir.
Okay, right. Maybe other class. Right. So why does a person misconduct himself or herself? Yeah, not your one. It's the international university. Yeah. So why does a person misconduct himself or herself? දැන් ඇයි අපි මේ විෂමාචාර නේ වැරදි හැසිරීම වලට ලක්වන්නේ නිකන් කම්පැනි අතාරින්නකො ආමි නේවි එයා ෆෝස් උත් අතාරින්නකො ඇයි මේ මිස්කන්ඩක්ට් වලට පෙළපෙන්නේ ඇයි අපි පොදුවේ ඇයි අපි මිනිස්සු හැටියට කවුරු rahat වෙලා නැහැනේ එයා මොගෙම අඩුපාඩු තියෙනවා ඒක හරියට හදාගන්න මොන හේතු නිසාද මිස්කන්ඩක්ට් වෙන්නේ අවශ්‍ය දේ නොලැබී යාමද තිබුණු දෙයක් ඉවත් වීමද ටිකක් අර mental distress එකද frustration ද කේන්ති යාමද මොන සමාජයයි මම නෙමෙයි ආයතන වලට පසු යමු so why does a person misconduct himself what is the reason why does a person misconduct himself
Sir, if something in a proper channel, if he cannot achieve or do the things,
ආයතනයේ නෙමෙයි මං අහන්නේ සමාජයේ I am not asking from the organization ඔයා මම අපි ඔක්කොම මේ සමාජයේ ජීවත් වෙන්නේ ඇයි අපි violent වෙන්නේ සමාජයට violent වෙන්නේ එකපාරට ෂෙල් 5000 ගෙව්වම කොහෙන්ද නවතින්නේ ඇයි ඒවට හේතු මොනවද රටකට වෙන්න පුළුවන් නේ ෂෙල් 5000 ගෙව්වම කර තියාගන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ ඒවා ඇවිල්ලා international affairs ඒක අපි අමතක කරමු international affairs හිත mind the answer is the mind control if I cannot control my mind I also get violent misconduct for that the best roots come from Buddhism Anita Gambalatino Madhyama Pratipada this is where Buddhists preach we have to have a standard Madhyama Pratipada ඔක නොමැති තැන සවාල ප්‍රශ්න other religions also they have their standards we are not actually ready to accept our weaknesses වෙලා අපි යන්න ඕනේ මධ්‍යම ප්‍රතිපදාවත් එක්ක Otherwise, it's very hard. So this is coming from religion, all religions, Buddhism, Christianity, Holy Al-Quran, Bhagavad Gita, Anjali. ඒක හරියට අපි පුහුණු වෙලා නැහැ. The best story I can tell you, King Asoka. King Asoka controlling Asia and other countries. But finally, he was well disciplined because of a monk, Buddhist monk taught certain things. Thereafter, the king gave his son and daughter to spread Buddhism in Asia and other countries. ඒ වගේ තියෙනවා ගොඩක් වෙලා. So that is a common matter. Most of these world leaders, if they do this, problems can be solved. Ego. Company also say ego. That's too bad. Anyway, that's different. Sorry. So why does a person misconduct himself or herself? There are certain reasons. Economic, environment, natural inclination to misconduct, unsuitable working conditions, bad management, deviation from past practices, workplace, bad management. What do you mean by bad management? Good governance and bad governance. The board of directors are not actually adhere to the country law, bad management. They do whatever they want. Unsuitable working conditions. No meal room, no clean water, no washrooms. How can people work? Unsuitable working conditions. Even you have that dust, cleanliness, polluted water, unsuitable working conditions. So when you are working in a workplace, you see this. Bad management due to board of directors' behavior. That is also one. Economic. Now, Sri Lanka, we are facing a very bad economy. Everyone try to leave the country. When I was in the airport 3 weeks before, youths, young people, the queue more than 300 meters. Everyone rushing to the airport to leave. So sad. Once I saw the queue, all these young people. So economic is the one. Even forces people are leaving. The economic situation. We cannot bear that. Then the environment. Bad weather sometimes. But two things we can control here. Unsuitable working conditions, the company can control. So that's why I explained to you, employee participation and employee involvement. No unsuitable working conditions. Bad management, we can't do anything. Even bad management, 2007 Company Act number 7, you can file a case on oppression and mismanagement. There is a clause. If the management giving high oppression and mismanagement, shareholders can go to court for the sake of the company. Bad management due to inexperienced senior officers. They don't know how to handle that. So these two people become misconduct, unsuitable working conditions. Otherwise, they leave the company. they will find another, employment. But we can't lose people like that. Bad management. 86 public sector departments. Now they are going to give for private. Why? Corruption, mismanagement. Many places. Like so, IMF, they advise 86 state sector. What has happened? So that is bad money. We can't do it. Then people get misconduct on that. Denial or neglect of known issues. Employees are complaining every day. But you are not supporting for that. Sudden provocation. One employee, innocent, but others are provoking him. Then he will get a knife and kill others. Sudden provocation. Sri Lanka laws are very strict. In USA, I can buy a gun, but I can't take to Sri Lanka. In USA, no need license. Gun shops are there. I went to one gun shop. There are guns from US dollars 500 to US dollars 2000. Anything. I asked, can I purchase this? Yes, you can. You pay this money and take this with the bullets. Then I asked whether I want to register this in the FBI or defense. No, nothing. This is your gun. You use that improperly. The only thing I can't take into Sri Lanka. Because those countries, people know how to use guns. But Sri Lanka, we are using guns for underworld purposes. So one country selling arms illegal. Michigan, every citizen, they have a gun. But they don't use that in an improper way. But if it goes to a mentally disordered person, he will take the gun and kill everyone in the school. So that is different. From country to country, it is different. One country is legal, the other country is illegal. So Sri Lanka, if you want to have a gun or pistol, you have to register that you have to show the threat and you have to register that in the Ministry of Defense. Like that, proper procedure. But in USA, no procedure. Pay $500, buy a good pistol with the ammunition. You can keep it forever. No need to register any place. You can take with your vehicle. But they are not using that. They use for their self-defense. So that's how these things are happening. So conflict of interest of values. That's another thing. Conflict of interest of values. Psychological reasons are there. Sri Lanka very high. That's why we need counseling. Do you know how many university students had committed suicide? Yesterday also one case is there. They cannot cope up with that. Reasons are there. Individual styles, disorganization. Another thing. Misbehavior. Selfish interest. Ulterior motives. Ego. Malicious intent. Disparity in relative skills. Conflict, if not resolved, lead to misconduct. So this list is not exhausting list is there, but I have selected certain things only in the list. Economic environment, natural inclination to misconduct, unsuitable working condition, bad management, deviation from past practices, denial or neglect of known issues, sudden provocation, conflict of interest or values, psychological reasons, individual styles, disorganization, selfish interest, ulterior motives, malicious intent, disparity in relative skills, conflict if not resolved lead to misconduct. Now look here your organization. Situations, misconduct arises, attendance. One of the key factor in your workplace is attendance. Then another situation arises on the job behaviors. Dishonesty is a big issue in Sri Lanka. Dishonesty. Unnecessary competition. This issue is there. Now I was an eyewitness in USA. Immediately after the graduation, employers are running behind the graduates. Immediately after, when I came out of the graduation ceremony, shell gas, all these big companies, they have put small huts. When the graduates are coming out, they will give a form. Fill it, and next day you can come to work. Employers are having a competition to get the graduates for their companies. Sri Lanka, these graduates must run behind the employer. Invest after graduation. It can be postgraduate. Postgraduate, many companies are coming. They just give you application, fill and give it. We will call for an interview. But they need the workforce. But here, it's gone the other side. Not a single bank or single company. They will have a stall after the graduation. Fill this, and next day we will provide the job. That's a different West in our country. Very, very rare. So dishonesty is another thing. They say they're patriotic, but they are not like that. Outside activities. It is not the company, outside company activities. So misconduct is accelerating now in the companies because of various reasons. And the other one is social media. I have not added that. Social media also another reason, not all. Now see the organization. Sri Lanka Army, the organization. So Army established rules and standards. They have their very strict code, otherwise court martial. Establish rules and standards, then communicate. That is the very important. Communicate rules and standards to the employees. In the orientation program, Sri Lanka Army do that. And also when they are interviewing, they will communicate. These are our rules and standards. If you wish, you can join, otherwise no problem. Then the HR department assesses behavior and performance. Who assess the behavior? HR department. Not on papers. They will give you and they will assess you and they will give the increment. Not only that, you have to see the performance. Thereafter, attempts to change inappropriate behavior. So the organization top, the problem employees there. Not all, right? Not all employees, maybe one or two. So the organization, employees there, you have to always communicate rules and standards. Company X, they have established the rules and standards. Having rules and standards not enough. Communication. You have to communicate that to whom? To the problem employee. Assesses behavior performance. HR department must do it. You have to assess the behavior, whether he is behaving in a well. Now today it's very easy. CCTV cameras. With the CCTV cameras, you can see their performance. And also they have their immediate supervisor. Immediate supervisor is there. Now you take apparel industry. Juki machine operators are there. Behind them, the arrogant supervisor is there. So they push them. That's how to increase the performance. You can find one employee going different track, which attempts to change the inappropriate behavior. Who can do that? HR department, counseling, or you give some targets and explain the code of conduct. Productivity is very important. Sharp time, on time you have to start, on time you finish. Now in other countries, you have the passenger charter. What is passenger charter? The timetables are given when the bus arrives. 6 o'clock means 6 o'clock, sharp 6 o'clock, the bus comes. If the bus delayed 10 minutes, you can sue. Passengers can sue because they were waiting to go for an interview because of this delay. See how Sri Lanka flights are delayed. It's all what? Non-acceptable because of several reasons. Sri Lanka trade unions, suddenly they go for strike, no? You saw in the train because of a cigarette butt, finally strike. So 24 hours lost of the passengers. Sri Lanka, we don't have a passenger charter. If there is a passenger charter, railway department must compensate the commuters. Other countries are like that. When the train timetable says 6, yeah, it comes sharp 6. Not 5:59, not 6:01. 6 means 6. Where they have a passenger charter. That is a discipline. That is the discipline. See the drivers, even red light, they don't care. Pedestrian crossing, how many deaths are there? In Western USA, when a passenger just come to the, color lights, or even to cross the road, 5 meters behind you have to stop the way. Discipline is that. Army, Navy, Air Force, they have that discipline. Because they have been trained. The discipline is there for forces I have seen in Sri Lanka. But individuals, they don't behave like that. Even red light, they try to pass. Even these passengers are ready to cross the other road. No, they are not allowing. You have to stop there. So that is a discipline. I can give one example for a discipline. I went to Singapore for a seminar. While I was going on road, I bought a toffee. The wrapping of the toffee, I just put to the road and just go. The person came behind me. He took that wrapping, put in his pocket, and he went. He never said anything to me. That is where he taught me some lesson. He taught me one lesson. Not blaming me, not shouting at me. What he showed me, even today I can remember. He just bent down and got my wrapping or the toffee wrapping, and he put this in pocket and he walked. So shame for me. That is the one way where we study discipline. එයාමට හොඳ පාඩමක් ඉගෙනුවා. මට බැන්නෙත් නෑ, මට ගෙව්වෙත් නෑ, මට මොකුත් කිව්වෙත් නෑ. මං විසි කරපු දවටනය එයාගේ සාප්පුවේ දාගෙන එයා ඉස්සරහට ගියා. ඒතර මං කොච්චර පශ්චාත්තාප වෙනවද. ඇයි මට ඒක කරන්න බැරි? That's how Singapore standards, cleanliness, discipline we see in the world. අපේ discipline එක බොහොම දුර්වලයි. Even when the garbage coming, we have to separate into 3 baskets. අපි තුනකට කඩලා දාන්න මේවා කරන්නේ නැහැ. ඔහේ දාන ඔක්කොම එකේ. Workplace discipline coming from home. Workplace එක හැදෙන්නේ නැහැ කවදා. අල්ලපු ගෙදර කුණු ටික හැමදාම අපේ ගේ ඉස්සරහ. එතන විතරක් ලස්සනට තියෙන. අනිත් මිනිහට කෙලවුණා. So workplace discipline we can't talk alone. Our inappropriate behavior we can't talk alone. Why we cannot talk alone? There is one issue. What is that? We are not disciplined from. Discipline is one key factor. Even I studied discipline when I was the Dean, Kotalawala Defense University. Very high standards. Discipline is discipline, not like that. So likewise, you must study the discipline. Discipline is one thing which will lead productivity, accountability, responsibility. All these things are there. So every company, not the forces, every company at least, every month, last Friday, at least 1 hour, you must have a discussion how you are increasing your productivity way by discipline. So this is one attempt where we try to organize. So the organization is there, the problem employee there. If you don't have rules, you have to establish the rules and standards. Communicate rules and standards. Then assesses behavior and performance. Then attempts to charge inappropriate behavior. So this is where the rule. If you cannot correct the behavior, yes, expel from service. You have to terminate. Because of one person, you cannot, basically. And there are some gossips also coming from company, and sometimes directors are, even an innocent employee, he will be targeted. Like Angulimal. It is in the Buddhist history. But he became a good man finally. So we can correct persons. We can do it by a way of rules and standards. So human resources. This is our lesson now. So human resources, disciplinary control is very important. Right kind of people, in the right number, in the right place. That is where you call HRP, human resource planning. Right kind of people, in the right number, in right place, at the right time. When you are selecting, you have to select people. That's why Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, without a police report, they don't recruit. But company, they don't ask for a police report. Why they asking a police report? Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, STF. What is the reason? Whether you are behavior. So police reports say everything. But in other companies, you don't want a police report. So that's why right kind of people. But in private sector, recommendation letters are. Private sector, if you don't know the person, they don't recruit. So they take the recommendation letters, reference letters, that you have to select the right kind of people. Right number, how many people you need, right number. And also in right place, in the right time. If all these 4 are coming up, then human resource planning is very important. Attracting and retaining the right person to the organization is important. Attracting and retaining, very hard. Attracting and retaining the right persons. Attracting and retaining the right person. People leave, but you have to attract and retain that. But only the right persons you have to keep, not others. So, understanding what discipline is all about. Understanding what discipline is all about. The standard of performance the company expects from the worker is discipline. The standard of performance. Okay. So the standard of performance the company expects from the worker is discipline. That's why I asked the question, what is discipline? Discipline and performance which go together. So the standard of performance the company expects from the worker is discipline. Performance is also kind of a behavior. You say you work hard, you show your performance. It's also a behavior. So a kind of behavior that is expected by the organization. Forces behavior is totally different to private sector, government sector. It's all depend with the organization. It's a kind of behavior that is expected. There is a way you have to do all these things. Assume that employee performance is a function of his skill and motivation. So the performance is coming up with skill and motivation. Performance come with skill and motivation. And then what will happen? It will directly coming with the discipline. Some workers will not provide the accepted behavior. Some workers will not provide the accepted behavior, even if they have skill and motivation. Sri Lanka. Our people are very skilled. Skillful people are there. They work very hard in other countries. They have a good motivation, but they don't do anything. People. That's a problem. So skill and motivation. You have to motivate the employees very high way. HR function. What you do in your organization. HR function is what? Recruitment. You have to recruit employee. For that you put advertisement. After that you have interview. After the interview you have shortlisted. Then psychometric you are having because of this, frustrated people are also there and mentally disordered people. So recruitment, selection, development, motivation, then retention is very easy. So HR department, all these are working in this class. You are working in the HR department. Recruit, select, develop, motivate, and retention. Today, Sri Lanka, the biggest problem is retention. People leaving. Why is that? We cannot control. Every employee, fundamental human right, you can join and you can leave the job. No one can forcibly keep. It's international human rights. But when you are leaving, if there is a bond, you have to pay that. If there are certain duties, you have to fulfill and go. So forcibly, no one can be kept. Joining, leaving is a fundamental human right of them. The international labor organizations. So there is a recruitment, then you have a selection, then the development, motivation, and retention. Retaining is the biggest target. Financial rewards you cannot give today. You cannot make new recruitments, we are facing that issue. So it's a HR function. You have to balance nicely. So you have to have a 2024 plan now, 2024 holidays. You have to plan who are going next week, next year, holidays. Obtaining the services of people, preparing them for the work. Induction programs are there, orientation programs are there. Activating them and keeping them. So you have to activate them, keep them. So discipline, misconduct, punishment is about activating, retaining, are not retaining people. Discipline, misconduct, and then you go for punishment. If discipline is bad, then it's misconduct. When you misconduct, it's a punishment. If they are violating laws, that is basically criminal law. Criminal law. But that is not a criminal law. It's not a crime, basically. Management is the process of efficiently getting activities completed with through other people. The HR department. Management is the process of efficiently getting activities completed with and through other people. You all are in the HR department. What you do? Your company activities. Your company activities you complete efficiently. Not by you. Getting the work from other people. So the management process includes planning, organizing, leading, and controlling activities that take place to accomplish objectives. Plan well, organizing, leading, and controlling activities that take place to accomplish objectives. So people versus other factors you have to consider. Keep them informed. This is the most important. Keep them informed. How? Employees are informed about discipline through letter of appointment. You can have an annexure. The day they come for interview, discipline and behavior is the main one in this company. So in this letter of appointment, you can attach disciplinary code, which is their enforcers, disciplinary code. Even the dress. Very important. Which keep you informed your discipline. That is a disciplinary code. Employee handbook. Ansel Lanka. Brandix, I have seen employee handbooks. Notices. You publish notices everywhere. You put the notice. Circulars. So you can employ. See, there are several ways. You can correct the behavior of the employees. How you do it? By letter of appointment, disciplinary code, employee handbook, notices, circulars, etc. Otherwise, employees will say they have not informed us. Now look here very clearly. Typical reasons for disciplining employees. Typical reasons for disciplining employees in an organization is very important. What are their indisciplined activities? Issues related to conduct. Issues related to conduct. Tardiness. Absenteeism. Very high in the apparel industry. Insubordination. That is not following the orders given by the seniors. Army, Navy, Air Force, that is very, very high. Commandment responsibility. Commandment responsibility. Orders must be followed. Negligence. What is negligence? Acting carelessly, recklessly, irresponsible way. Every one of us here have a duty of care. We have a duty of care. If we breach the duty of care, we are liable for negligence. Fighting. Obviously, we have seen the fighting. Railway Department very recently, CGR, Ceylon Government Railways. Two people were fighting. And thereafter, what happened? Breakdown of the service source. Stealing. Theft. Stealing company money. Stealing company instruments. Falsification of documents. Change in the documents. Falsification of the documents. Abusiveness. Abuse the power. Abusiveness. Harassment. Verbal harassment. Sexual harassment. Those things are there. Use of obscene language. Obscene language. What is obscene language? Which is highly used in the parliament. Obscene language. Workplace you can't use. Asabbi. In a mukadda sabbi, mukadda asabbi. That's another issue. Possession of a controlled substance. Ice. Ice ke wo mallandatte. Now, if someone has consumed alcohol, you can catch him, no? Belum pumbala allana police. You know what I mean? But there is a chemical called ice. Now there are some zombie drugs. It's very hard. Controlled substance are there. Hashish. Opium. Likewise. Reporting to work under the influence of alcohol or other controlled drugs. Substance abuse. Infractions of published work rules, for example, dress code, safety procedures. So all these are issues related to employee conduct. Issues related to performance, also there. Low productivity, high error rate, overall repetition of specific error, repeating the same. So typical reasons for disciplining employees are issues related to conduct and issues related to performance. These two. The purpose of employee discipline, what is the purpose? A tool used by managers to improve poor performance. If you're well disciplined, you work hard. So it's a tool used by managers to improve poor performance and enforce appropriate behavior to ensure a productive and safe workplace. Productive and safe workplace. Now, discipline principles. This is where we, as the HR team, must look very carefully. Discipline. Hot stove rules are there. What is preventive? Corrective. Preventive is the best. You have to prevent before it's happening. Therefore, every company must have a labor relations officer. He must go and see what are the issues with them. Then you have contingencies, natural justice, listen to both parties. Then you have positive and negative, both sides. If it is positive, progressive, counseling, and then you have a sandwich. Then negative, you have victimization. Negative victimization, false allegations. It is very high in companies. Biased, Pakshapat. He is my support. He is my favorite. No, no good. No inquiry. You must have an inquiry before that. And malice. So positive and negative. Positive discipline and negative. Negative means victimization, false allegations, bias, no inquiry and malice. Positive, progressive, counseling and strength. Now, this is important. Organizational policy and procedure you must have. Every company, importance of a written disciplinary policy and procedure. Written disciplinary policy must be there. It protects managers and organization, HR manager. Guarantees rights of employees. It guarantees the rights of them. Teach manager how to discipline employees. It teach manager how to discipline them. So employee discipline, you must have a policy. Employee discipline means not to punish. Not to punish. But to support them for develop their skills. Policy, in order to provide a safe and positive workplace for all. So discipline, employee discipline, policy for what? Safe and positive workplace. You must have a safe and positive workplace. Employees are expected to comply with standards of conduct and performance while on the job. When standards are not met, progressive discipline will be used as a way of encouraging employee to meet the standards, not to punish. This is the higher standards. The courts also like this type. Managers are to administer discipline equitably and consistency, with emphasis on correcting the problem rather than on punishing the employee. Many people think violation of discipline punishment, no. You can correct the problem also. So very clearly you can see why we need the employee discipline policy. Safe and positive workplace for all. Employees are expected to comply with standards of conduct and performance while on the job. When standards are not met, then the progressive discipline will be used as a way of encouraging an employee to meet the standards. Managers are to administer discipline equitably and consistently, with emphasis of correcting the problem rather than on punishing the employee. Correct rather than punish. So organizational policy and procedure components. You must have a procedure. Usually, if you find an employee trending to indiscipline, you can have a cup of coffee with him and explain. When I was a probationary employee, I also did the same mistake. Then he will understand. Don't blame him. Just have a friendly discussion with the employee. And you explain what you did, wrong things when you are a probationary employee. But now you are mature. Then they will understand. Otherwise, if you put the blame, that can be an issue for them. So the procedure usually has a minimum of 4 steps. That discussion also not productive. He is not listening. Then verbal warning. Verbal warning you must give. You must give a verbal warning. No, not correctly. Then written warning you must give. No, he is not. And finally, no other choice. Terminate. That is the final. So, 4 steps. Verbal warning, written warning, suspension, and termination. We don't want to go for termination if successfully, if we can implement the first 3. From the verbal warning, if we can correct, then no issue. So what we do, the procedure is important. Usually has a minimum of 4 steps. Verbal warning, written warning, suspension, and termination. Now, what is the disciplinary procedure? What is the purpose? To correct the employee, not to punish, to correct the employee, not to punish them. To have a disciplined workforce, to increase the productivity. Strict adherence. Strictly adhere. To gain the confidence of employees towards the disciplinary procedure. To gain the confidence of employees toward the disciplinary procedure. Why discipline? And why indiscipline? Ignorance of rules. People are indisciplined, Vinay Virodhi, whenever ignorance of rules. Traffic rules are not obeyed by Sri Lanka. A lot of road accidents are. Why we ignore? That's the end of other person's life. Physical and mental incapabilities. In our country, Sri Lanka, rather than physical, mental incapability. That's another reason. Absence of proper training. You have to give them a proper training. Absence of proper training is another. Discontent workman. Misguidance by trade union leaders. Leaders will save, but the members will have a problem. Misguidance. Absence of standard policies of handling discipline. So every company must have a standard policy. Why people in discipline? I ask. Ignorance of rules, physical, mental incapability, absence of proper training, discontent, misguidance by trade union leaders, absence of standard policies of handling discipline. working condition. So in discipline requiring action, what action we take? I'll give a break, have a cup of tea, and come back. And we will see what type of actions we are going to take. Any problem up now, please ask.
So when we are going to suspend the
I can't
service,
hear.
can you hear me, sir?
Oh, thank you. Amen. Okay.
So can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear.
So when we are going to suspend the employee from the service, how we can decide the period of it? What are the uh, what are the elements that we need to focus when we are deciding the
Period
period of
means?
suspension?
Suspension period. Right. Yeah. Now, the law never describe a period. I know even the labor commissioner matters are going beyond years and years. So I can't exactly say what period. But one thing I can say you, that is whereby maximum 12 months.
Right, sir.
It's not a law, but
No, as a practice.
yeah, by practice I have seen it.
Right. If some investigation are going on, after that we can restate.
Yes,
As per the
reasonable
results.
time period. The law never
Right.
described.
This right, sir. Thank you. Sir.
Okay, thanks. So you'll have a cup of tea and talk. Thank you. So indiscipline requiring action. What action you take? Earlier when I asked, you said, what you do? Counseling. Someone said counsel. Yes, that is also acceptable method. And what are the other? Rather than termination, you must try to do what? Correct them. Correct themselves. So always you must see how you are going to correct. Absenteeism. You need an action. High action you need for absenteeism. Habitual late coming. Indiscipline. Need action. Indiscipline. Need action. Overstaying leave. Overstaying leave. Disobeying rules, standing orders. Insubordination. Orders given by the seniors. Misappropriation of funds or valuables. Misappropriation of funds or valuables. Misconduct. Misbehavior. So now you saw several indiscipline actions need some type of action. Steps. First of all, whatever we saw in the last slide, we must conduct a preliminary investigation without informing the employee. Some people call this fact-finding mission. Some people call this fact-finding mission, or else preliminary investigation. Now, when you conduct the preliminary investigation, yes, very high absenteeism. Very high absenteeism. Then what you do? Ask an explanation. Show cause, charge sheet. Then you receive the explanation. Then you conduct a domestic inquiry. Then you have the findings of the inquiry report. Then you give the punishment or terminate. He will go to labor tribunal and appeal against the decision of LD revision. It is in the provisional high. Army, Navy, Air Force different. They have the Army Act, Navy Act. Any soldier or officer or anyone, if they break the rules, code of ethics, court martial. So it's like a court. So in the court martial, the punishment can be given. Against a court martial, you can go to courts until they say this is a final one, but still there are possibilities of going to courts. So they go with their legislations. Army, Navy, Air Force, they have their legislations. In that legislation, it explains what type of action you are going to take. So, preliminary investigation, yes, a lot of information we gathered. Then, show cause, ask explanation, or else you can issue a charge sheet, and then you receive the explanation. Based on that, you can decide whether going for a domestic inquiry or not. And the domestic inquiry findings given by the inquiry officer. Thereafter, the company board of directors can decide the punishments and final termination. So preliminary investigation, what do? Preliminary investigation, you are finding answer. Who did that? What happened? Where it happened? When it happened? Why it happened? How it happened? So based on the offense, you can prepare questions in the preliminary investigation. Who, what, where, when, why, how. Starting with who are involved in this. What has exactly happened? Where it happened. Likewise, use these starting words of the question. Who, what, when, where, why, how. So record the statement of the complaint. You have to record the statement of the complaint. Absenteeism, you can ask why, the reasons and all. So you need materials and documents connected to the incident. It will be removed, sealed, and taken to the custody. Absenteeism, take the attendance sheet and then seal it and keep in your custody. Otherwise, you can alter, or delete certain things. The relevant authorized officer immediately, giving no room to alter. Record the statements of the witnesses to the incident. Now, this is where they will attack you. All these witnesses are company supporters, no independent witnesses. So you have to find out some independent witnesses when you are recording the statement of the witnesses to the incident. All these are biased. They are all employees in the company. So you try to find out some independent witness also. Study fast and gain an idea what exactly has happened. With the preliminary report, you can do. Record a statement from the suspected employees as soon as possible. You record a statement from the suspected employee or employees as soon as possible. Analyze all these evidence. Analyze all these evidence to establish whether there is any act of misconduct to pursue further. So record the statements of the witnesses to the incident. Study fast and gain an idea what exactly has happened. Record a statement from the suspected employees as soon as possible. Analyze all these evidence to establish whether there is any act of misconduct pursued further. Recording statement. A place without disturbance. Closed room, no disturbance when you are recording statement. So reliable person to take down in clear handwriting what this. Non-erasing, non-typex. Start with mentioning place, date, and time. In direct speech, you have the continuation of the pages and page number. Then conclusion. So you have to record the statement. So the complainant from the HR department, independently you have to do it. And then the employee concerned also there. Now, advantages of holding a preliminary inquiry, always you are cleared in court. In the courts, you get a very clear. Recording statements with fresh memories before influences. Identifying the witnesses. Who are the witnesses in your case? Facts for better decision to hold an inquiry on. So with the preliminary inquiry, you can decide whether you are going for a disciplinary inquiry. So facilitate in preparing counts in show causes. So you have to see outcome of the preliminary investigation. Prima facie case. Prima facie means apparently. Whether there is a case against a concerned employee, whether he is actually done this or not. In the courts, this will really support you. So this is a very supporting one. Separate count for each misconduct. Absenteeism, habitual delay. Like for each count, you have to prepare one. So start of the letter. Replying before when sufficient notice should be given. So state action if no reply receives. Ex parte inquiry. Interdiction. Preliminary investigation revealed there are evidence that he has committed that offense. Then interdict. Subject to the disciplinary inquiry, you can interdict. Interdiction, which is coming subject to the disciplinary inquiry. But there is a Supreme Court case, you have to pay half month's salary. No. According to the administrative circulars, half month's salary. Supreme Court has decided to pay 1 month's salary, not 1 month, the full salary. So interdiction, when the employee is involved in a major misconduct, and the chances are high to prove such which warrants termination after the interdiction. Where the presence of the employee in the workplace should seriously affect the employee. Specifically, the possibility of influencing the witnesses or tampering documents relevant to the inquiry. That's why you interdict. You ask all his keys and whatever the stuff out of bound of the employee, and then you can start. If he's inside, then there is a little bit seriously affect the inquiry. Because he can influence a witness, tampering the document. So that's why we go for interdiction. Payment during the interdiction, if it is a public sector, half salary. But private sector, they don't want to pay anything. They may not pay anything, but Supreme Court say no, until the termination or whatever the interdiction result, you have to do the payment. When you receive the explanation or reply to charges maybe. Sometimes they will. Now what will happen? When you send a charge sheet to the employee, he will put one of this. Denying or rejecting all the charges. He will send a... Sometimes he will give reason, sometimes he may not. He is denying all the charges. He may be rejecting all the charges. Sometimes pleading for mitigatory circumstances. Try to mitigate whatever the offense. Pleading guilty for all or some charges. Pleading guilty for all or some charges. Request for further time. Dragging for some time. No reply at all. If you are in the HR department, what you have received mostly? Number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Now, many of you are working in the HR department. When you send the explanation letter, how he reply for the charges? First one, is he denying or rejecting all charges, pleading for mitigatory circumstances? He will say yes, mitigate. Pleading guilty for all or some charges, request for further time to answer. No reply at all. Yes. Which answer you have received most?
First one, sir.
Rejecting. Denying or rejecting all the charges. Because the employee's lawyer may have advised not to accept anything, deny, rejecting all charges. Yes. Now you have to go for the disciplinary inquiry. If he says so, what will happen? If you are denying, then it is not good for the company also. Someone will say you have falsely prepared the charge sheet. Therefore, you have to go for a disciplinary inquiry. Domestic inquiry. Company is not involved. It is done by a independent officer. So what are the advantages of holding a domestic inquiry? Why we are going for the domestic inquiry? denied all the charges. So therefore, we have to go for a domestic inquiry. Otherwise, he will say false charges or charges cannot be proved because of the revenge. They will say certain things, the employees. Advantages of holding a domestic inquiry. Respect for the principles of natural justice. Listen to both parties. Not only for the HR division, you have to listen to the employee side also. That is natural justice of giving reasonable opportunity to the employee of being heard in his case defense. Establishing employer's bona fide at a subsequent LD inquiry. Even if you go for labor tribunal, you can prove to the labor tribunal president. Bona fide means honestly. Establishing employer's honesty at the subsequent LD inquiry is very honest. Recording all the evidences. Complainant, you took it. HR executive may have complainant against him. Then other witnesses are there recording all evidence, of which some may not be able to locate at a large stage center. Recording all incidents which may not be able to remember by witness at a later stage. Accused employee will not be able to change his stand at a later stage. Later stage they may not. Principles of natural justice. Even the HR department complains is high absenteeism. Listen to the employee also. It will be added advantage for you. You ask him to come to your office and then we can give his explanation. Reasonable opportunity of being heard in his defense. Reasonable opportunity is given. So allowing the accused to defend, present his side in the case. Independent inquiry officer, very important. Not a person directly involved in the issue. So the inquiry officer to act in reasonably and in good faith, not arbitrarily, and to ensure fair play. Balance of probability. All the evidences you take, you see which side is having more. Not beyond reasonable doubt, balance of probability. Role of the inquiry officer. He is an independent person, not biased towards employer and employee. A caliber person with experience who have done these type of disciplinary inquiries before. That is important. So role of the inquiry officer, caliber of person. The role of the inquiry officer is to decide whether charges stated in the charge sheet are proved or not based on evidence laid before. So you have given a charge sheet to the employee. Employee replied to the charge sheet and you are not satisfactory and going for this disciplinary inquiry. So you have to appoint an inquiry officer, a caliber person. And also he knows everything happening in this company. The charges should be explained to the accused and asked whether the accused plead guilty or not for each count separate. You have to ask. The charges you have to ask should explain one by one. Prosecuting officer. Prosecuting officer normally HR department in the company. So prosecuting officer to lead evidence in chief. He has to get all the evidence of this project. So the prosecuting officer to lead evidence in chief, cross-examination by the defense. They will ask cross-examination, re-examination by the prosecution, and question by the inquiry officer. So after finishing witnesses for the prosecution, evidence in chief by defense, cross-examination by prosecution, re-examination by the defense, and question by the inquiry officer or witness for the defense. So inquiry officer can call any witness again to clarify any point. Leading questions are not permitted. What are leading questions? Yes or no answers. Were you the person right behind? Yes or no? We say yes. Leading questions are not permitted. Written submissions may be allowed after concluding the oral evidence. Prosecuting officer. Normally, prosecuting officer is an executive in HR department. He is the one prosecuting. And then in a disciplinary inquiry, no lawyers are attending. Only the employer and employee. Prosecuting officer is there. Prosecuting inquiry together. Defenses you have. You have a silent observer. Then you have a defending officer. Fellow worker. Branch union official. Parent union official. Outsider, not a lawyer. So other roles are. Then the inquiry officer will prepare a report and submit to the company. The company will take decision what they are going to do. Decision on each count, you have to say whether guilty or not. Facts based on for the judgment. No recommendations for punishment. You can't punish because these are civil cases. Punishment according to the outcome, you can see terminate or suspension of service for some period. According to the outcome. Past reports, you have to see industrial relations, how it aspect is known by other companies. Charge sheet. Memorandum of charges. What are charges? Statement of allegations of misconduct, commission or negligence. So there is no particular format prescribed for charge sheet in any labor enactment. So you can prepare charge sheet. 1, 2, 3. What are the charges? So the charges you have to give enough time to give is explanation. If you are satisfied with that, then you can continue with this service, otherwise termination. But when the inquiry started, you have actually interdicted that person. So no particular format prescribed for charge sheet in any labor enactment. Then the objects to give the employee exact idea what happened in the misconduct, what you have done. Clearly you can give the misconduct committed by him so that he may get reasonable opportunity to defend. Requisite of a charge sheet. It should contain complete picture of a misconduct. It should state that the act of omission relating to misconduct is a violation of a particular clause of standing order. Language to be as per standing order so as required by the delinquent. Enclose a list of witnesses in support of charges. Be specific every time. When you are preparing the charges against him, don't put etc., etc. Other, any, some people like it. Then, when you go to courts, it is a little bit doubt. Why the charges you are mentioning like that? It is not the way, basically. The charges level should be specifically stated, avoid, etc., etc. Other, any, some people like expressions. The amount misappropriated should be specific sum and not around. 400,000, no. Around 400,000, no. So you have to put the correct specific sum. Person, man should be, you have to say the name and not someone. You have to say the name. Time of misconduct should be exact, avoid around. So charge sheet for using of offending language should not be used. Straight language, speak. So charges must be specific. Service of a charge sheet. As stated in the standing orders, it is there, you have to serve. Serve the charge sheet personally against signature on duplicate copy and delivering. If absent or leave under suspension, paste it on the wall of the residence of the delinquent. by register post you have to serve. Now in USA, there was certain cases, summons, and these charge sheet you can distribute through your Facebook, but Sri Lanka we have by registered post. Displaying in the notice board of the government. Publishing in the regional newspaper. Now domestic inquiry. Follow rules laid down in the standing orders. Purpose of the domestic inquiry. What is the purpose? Provide delinquent an opportunity to defend the charges. Provide employer an opportunity to evaluate the situation. And decide the penalty to be imposed. Notice of inquiry to be served. Notice to show the date and time of inquiry where you are conducting. Venue of holding inquiry, not the company, independent place is important because the employer as well as the employee also. The name of the inquiry officer. Notice to be served in the same manner as followed by serve charge sheet. Workman shall have right to appoint a defense help. So when legally trained person represents management and inquiry, workman shall also be allowed to be represented by lawyer. Recording the evidence, questions, answer pattern to be followed. Statement of management, you have to take first the prosecution officer must take, and then the defending employee. Cross-examination is there. Take signature of concern on all records. Examine and cross-examine of the witnesses are important. Object disallow irrelevant questions should not ask. Show cause notice. Before punishment is initiated, show cause notice highlight the charges. Findings of the inquiry officer where he conducted the report. Possible penalty imposed on the delinquent shall also be served calling on him to show. By action including discharge shall not be taken against the delinquent. So there are cases now. Though servicing of such notice will not make the process of inquiry valid, which is as advisable, the employee final opportunity before punishment is inflicted. Order of punishment. Principles of natural justice you have to follow. Otherwise, they will challenge in the courts. It can go against you fine. So principles of natural justice to be followed. Order issued without holding a domestic inquiry or after holding a defective inquiry will not stand since labor court tribunal can interfere with such order. Written warning. How to give the written warning? It has been revealed to us. You are continuously absent. You put the dates and kindly correct this within 1 week. You receive the letter. So written warning should be tardiness. What is that and how you have reported? 10 minutes late, 18 minutes late, 25 minutes. So you have to put that. Every day is delayed. 30 minutes. And you have to see how you are working. Charge sheet absent without intimation. Charge sheet absent without intimation. So absenting without intimation. You have been absent since, what is the date? Overstaying leave granted. Absenting without leave. Overstaying of leave in an offense. As per rule of our standing orders and as much and such you act of the absenting without intimation in a misconduct which attracts such a punishment, including termination of service. So you are called upon to explain the right within 48 hours that why appropriate action should not be taken against you. These are all drafts. Misbehavior. It is reported that on 10th October, whatever, at the time, misbehaved. You have to write the name and designation in presence of your witnesses. Disobeying orders and misbehaving are serious misconduct as per rule. And also it is very, very important how you are going to deliver. Accordingly, you are hereby called upon to explain in writing within 48 hours. No, you can give more, 72 hours. Why appropriate action should not be taken against you. You can give explanation. Notice of inquiry. What date? It is given. See, the explanation given by you are cited above is found unsatisfactory. See, his answer you have to attack. It is unsatisfactory. Being initiated by charge, the inquiry will commence at 9:30 a.m. on that date. You are by required to present, and they will give it. The inquiry proceedings into charge sheet number, date, time, place, inquiry. Present case, charge sheet, employee, defense helper, management representative. The charges leveled against the employee were read over explanation. You have to explain one by one and examine those things. Statement, questions and answers, signature of the witnesses, signature of charge sheet at employee with the declaration that the statement has been recorded in his presence, signature of the inquiry officer. Cross-examination you can do with the employee and the defense. So they are same, way we do it. So cause notice you have to give, whereas you were charge sheeted for an offense stated. So where you find offense, code of conduct is there. So where you charge sheeted for an offense as stated, and whereas you were granted an opportunity to defend the charges by way of domestic inquiry, which commenced on and the end. Dates here. Your innocence of the inquiry officer. Wherever. Independent place, you must have a disciplinary inquiry without prejudice and following the inquiry officer's report. Your act of commission has been proved serious misconduct because of your negligence. You write all these things. These are all drafts I am showing you. Termination order final. So order of termination of service. Pursuant to the charge sheet have referred and findings of the inquiry reported data. Two things are there. Management has to come to the conclusion that the charges level again you have been proved categorical. So as you have been found guilty of serious of misconduct, the management has decided dismiss from your service with effect. He will go to labor tribunal and then he will file a case. That is immaterial. So you are therefore directed to settle your dues, including salary. It's very important, dues and hand over everything. Now there are certain grounds, immediate termination. If a person found guilty, no need to have disciplinary inquiries. Usually leads to immediate termination. And in the court you can do it. Physical engagement of others. That is another. Consuming alcohol while on the job. Immediate transfer. Termination, right? Not transfer. Using controlled substance while on the job. Willful destruction of property. Immediately you can terminate. Possession of firearms while on work premises. You can't have it. Only the security guards. It's another. Unauthorized disclosure of confidential information. How do you know that? Whether this guy has passed the information. That is where you have to find. How you say you are unauthorized disclosure of confidential information. So you must check with others. May lead to immediate termination if the magnitude of offense is large. Stealing money. You can terminate. Stealing money, you have to put a complaint in the closest police station house. Falsification of documents. Age change, you have good degrees likewise. Reporting to work under the influence of alcohol or controlled substance. So, immediate termination also there. Immediate termination if the magnitude of the offense is large. So, Sri Lanka, we have an Industrial Dispute Act. Any employee terminated, he can go to the courts. So, Industrial Dispute Act number 43 of 1950 Sri Lanka. What is an industrial dispute? Employee and employee. Any dispute or difference between the employer and employee or between the employers and employees connected with the employment or non something connected to them. Recruiting, non-recruiting, work conditions, there are several things. So terms of employment or with conditions of labor or the termination of employment or reinstatement of employment by any person. So labor tribunal is there. When the company terminates the employee, he will run here. Selection of witness and preparing them for all, yes, he can do. Availability of the witnesses means basically from the company, no one is coming to give evidence, but to find some. So reliability of the witnesses specifically. If the witness is no longer in the employee. Any possibility of witness is being approached, influenced by the applicant. Ability of the witness to give a strong answer. The way of the evidence we are given in the domestic inquiry. Then the secondary evidence with others say, appeal against the decision in LT labor. Why do we need a disciplinary procedure for an organization? Yes, 2 minutes. What's your answer? Yes, anyone? Why do we need a disciplinary procedure for an organization? Answer, please.
To maintain the organization standard and performance of the employee.
Yes. Any other answer? Why do we need a disciplinary procedure for an organization?
To control them.
Hmm?
To maintain the consistency in the company and ensure the legal compliance.
Mhm. Okay. Any other?
When the company is having a proper disciplinary procedure,
Mhm.
they know if there's a misconduct, what will happen and how it's end for their career for the employees.
All right. So why do we need a disciplinary procedure for an organization? Why do we need disciplinary procedure? To convince a tribunal, a third party, that the employee acted bona fide, there was no victimization. When you are conducting a disciplinary inquiry, it will fully support for the company. To convince a tribunal, a third party, that the employee acted bona fide. Bona fide means honest, and there was no victim. To show that rules of natural justice had been followed in arriving at a decision. So the employee has a right which is stemming from rules of natural justice, that he should be given an opportunity to be heard. So as a means documenting and recording the statements from the eyewitness at the preliminary investigation stage, the document all the evidence of witness at the domestic inquiry so that witness will not be subsequent. So these are some of the important factors as no one victimized, done it according to law. So given the opportunity for both parties. Now there are collective agreements. Now, collective agreement is a system where industrial disputes solving, employer trade union, employee trade union, they come for an agreement for 2 years to see whether there are any mitigating factors that we should consider. Finally, having a good administrative policy is a form of eradicating employee dissatisfaction. So employee discipline should be used for the purpose of helping the employee to correct behavioral problems and negative at the workplace. That is important. And a disciplinary policy and procedure should be in place that includes policy statement, the purpose of the policy, and step-by-step procedures. Managers must use judgment, empathy, consistency, and fairness when administering disciplines. So you have to be very careful. Managers, you must use your judgment, empathy, and consistency, and fairness when administrating employee discipline. Otherwise, they say you harass the employees, getting the revenge of the employees. All disciplinary actions should be documented in the factual and non-judgmental. All right. So that is where discipline, employee, discipline matters. So next day we will discuss the termination of employee 1971 Act and the other laws we are discussing next time. Any problem you can ask.
Sir, can you share these slides, sir? Is it
Yeah, I
possible?
can share. I will send it to your coordinator. He will send it. No worries. Any other question you can ask? So read and come 1971, termination of employee special provision. Termination of employee special provision. That is very, very important. And the compensation formula also there. So you have to see that and very careful. Any other question you can ask? All right, so we will meet next week. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.